Hello, friends, and welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Nintengems podcast. I am one half of today's co-hosts, Brayden, and across from me,
I am the other half of today's co-host, which I think, does that make me a quarter co-host? A half of the co-host?
Yeah,
Maybe.
No, that's some interesting math.
Yeah, I was a theater major, sorry.
But put those ingredients together, and you have the Nintengems podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome, guys.
What kind of podcast are we, exactly?
Yeah, we are a Nintendo podcast where we cover Nintendo games both new and old. This episode, we have some brand new Pokemon Snap is what it's called.
Yes,
so
truly.
making it easy on us. And then some old, we're going to cover a Super Nintendo classic, Donkey Kong Country, which is going to be a little bit out of our comfort zone, but I'm excited to get to talk about it.
Ooh, this is interesting to parse that.
Maybe I shouldn't have lumped you into that. It's out of my comfort zone, but
sure.
I took the time to play it, and so I'm interested to...
For your first time.
Yes.
Right, gotcha,
so,
yeah.
You know, it'll be good to discuss.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Anyway, before we dive in, I do want to say, if you aren't following us on Instagram, I think at this point, it's safe to say you're missing out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am proud of my posts, at least. We are keeping up with our Instagram pretty well. We're posting lots of screenshots and content from the games that we're playing, the games that we're going to be discussing on the show, and, you know, any announcements that we might have, we'll definitely run through there. Of course, follow us on Facebook as well, if that's your preferred place, and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on right now.
Absolutely. I will vouch for the Instagram lately, because Pokemon Snap is kind of built for the platform in a way. We got some real eye candy on there at the moment.
Absolutely. That's just a great segue into the game. Should we get into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have been the one to play new Pokemon Snap, and from here on out, I think we'll just address it as Pokemon Snap.
Sure. But before we address it any further, I suppose it's worth mentioning, I myself am more of a casual Nintengems listener. Perhaps you, Brayden, are a more hardcore fan.
Right.
So it's been a while since I have revisited the old episode where you and Jake both compared Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Ranger.
That's right.
Is that correct? Was that the conceit of the episode?
That's right. We called it a Pokemon spin-off battle.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of our first couple episodes.
Yeah. So is it worth like a brief recap of what exactly Pokemon Snap is, or do we just redirect our listeners to head there first, or what are you thinking? You know,
and to be honest, it could be worth just a brief recap of what the game is, because that episode, it's aimed to be more entertainment, to be honest,
rather than analytical.
Yeah, but by the same token, it's still worth a good listen. My wife is on it, and we make fun of her lack of gaming knowledge, so it's always fun. So yeah, with that said, you know, check out the old stuff if you want, but otherwise, we'll break it down for you right here now.
Yeah, just because you'll have more to say about new Pokemon Snap proper, I guess I'll give a go at explaining the OG.
Yeah.
So the original Pokemon Snap was released for the N64 way back in 1999, and is a first-person shooter of sorts, dare I say. Like a rail shooter, almost. But the snap in the title refers to a camera. You are shooting photos. But yeah, so Pokemon Snap, even regarding those other spin-offs and stuff, is still like a very novel, interesting, oddball concept. Like it's a cool concept and like a creative one, but it is interesting to me that like it went so far as to like become a fully fledged, fully funded game.
Yeah, you're talking about the novel concept of Pokemon Snap, but we've done a little parsing of the timeline here of Pokemon games and kind of just the experiences that Pokemon players had up to that point. And really, there was Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow. Like you said, I think the Pokemon TCG game, probably for the Game Boy.
Right.
Color, that is.
Mm-hmm.
But, to my understanding, I don't think we'd seen Pokemon in 3D yet.
Yeah, you're pretty much right. Pokemon Stadium, which is kind of like the other main Nintendo 64 Pokemon game you think of, did come out just a few months after Pokemon Snap was released, and the big draw of Pokemon Stadium was that it was all 150 Pokemon, all of your favorite Pokemon finally rendered in 3D, in full color, and like you could act out these like the Pokemon battles in 3D, and like that was
finally
the
got to see the attacks,
special effects, and like all the action in real time, basically. But yeah, that does put Pokemon Snap in an even more interesting place, because that really was more so the first time that you saw Pokemon in 3D kind of doing their own thing, but like outside of a battle context too, which is really interesting, because it's all, even disregarding that this is the first time that we saw Pokemon in 3D and that it's a Pokemon photography game, this is like a wildlife photography game.
Yeah.
Like, can you name off the top of your head like another wildlife photography video game? Like,
and that's a great point. Just back to your kind of niche, strange idea.
Yeah, like Pokemon Snap itself is notable as an interesting artifact in the Pokemon spin-off canon. But just like just as far as general video games go, like there really aren't many notable wildlife photography simulators.
Yeah.
And the fact that one of like the most accessible and enjoyable ones is a Pokemon game, if not like one of the only ones, period, and that it's good at what it does, is pretty wild.
I agree. And so now, 22 years later, this game has remained untouched while still being regarded as one of the best Pokemon spin-off games.
Yeah.
It's never lost its cred, it's...
Right, and the 3DS came and went, the Wii U came and went, these different Nintendo platforms with built-in cameras, like, into the hardware, have, like, come and gone, lived and died, and people have, like, been waiting with bated breath for, like, a Pokemon Snap sequel, spin-off, reboot for a long time, and like these obvious choices have kind of passed us by, but we're finally here somehow for some reason. I guess now is the time, 22 years later, to strike gold. Why not? Yeah.
Like you were saying, the Wii U really struck me at the time as a console that would suit the Pokemon Snap series well. Just with the gamepad and the gyroscopic features, just... It sure seemed like a healthy fit, but the Switch is a great home for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So then tell us about it. Why is it a great home? Is it good? Is it new enough?
It is certainly new, and if nothing else, it is new in the fact that the first game had 151 Pokemon, and this one has all freaking 5,000 that we have at this point in the Pokemon series.
Really? Careful.
Yeah, I really should have toned that down a little bit. It pulls from the entire pool of 5,000 Pokemon. I'm exaggerating. There's
not 1,000 yet, right?
Yeah, there's not quite 1,000 Pokemon yet, but this new Pokemon Snap, it does have the entire Pokedex to pull from, and so that just means you're seeing newer faces to the Pokemon series, and even some of the old Johto Pokemon from Gold and Silver, that just weren't around at the time that the first Snap came out. So it's nice to see some old and new faces.
They're all kind of commingling too. Like it's all 800 some of these Pokemon from across generations and from the past few decades.
Exactly. And it's your job as this kind of research photographer to capture them in these adorable or dangerous, it really, the situations these Pokemon find themselves in vary depending on the Pokemon.
Capture them?
No. There's no Pokemon battling. There's no Pokemon capturing. It purely plays like a visit to your nature center, kind of. You are, or to the zoo, even.
Yeah, that's better, yeah.
But in this case, the Pokemon are out in their natural habitats, and you're, catching them doing what they do on their day-to-day basis.
It's like a safari.
Exactly.
So in the original Pokemon Snap, the concept was you are this, like you said, kind of like a fledgling Pokemon wildlife photographer, and you're hired by Professor Oak on this island to just kind of like, he just wants research. Like he just kind of wants somebody to observe and catch Pokemon doing what they do in the environment just for his own research purposes. And that was kind of the extent of the plot as it went. It was mostly about the novelty of the photography gameplay. spoiler alert, but the original game did end with you taking photos of Mew as kind of like a final boss, sort of. But their circumstances ended up getting a little more elevated in a way. Very loosely, it wasn't like it was never like save the world or anything, but you did encounter Mew, and like that was kind of a big deal. Is there a plot in new Pokemon Snap that is relevant?
So it's very similar to the original. There is a new professor named Professor Mirror. I have not quite found the pun there. You know, usually there's like, I don't know, they're all named after plants, or, you know, it's a play on the region or something.
Maybe it's because, like, camera apertures use, like, a mirror.
Maybe. We can go with that.
Okay.
But you're working with Professor Mirror in the Lintal region, which, to my understanding, is also a new region in the Pokemon world.
Right.
If you're familiar with Pokemon at all, each region has its own set of Pokemon, essentially, that are found naturally within those biomes, etc. And so Lintal brings together all these new Pokemon and old for you to go out and explore. It really takes the formula of the original game and I would say just expands it. There's more courses than there were. I think there were only like probably 10 courses in the first game.
Ooh, honestly, probably fewer than that. Forest, beach, desert, cave, volcano.
And I'll say it's not far off in new Pokemon Snap either. You know, there's a desert, a cave, a underwater level, which is new and kind of cool.
Cool.
But each of those levels have variations. There's not only a day and night cycle that you can kind of switch between depending on how you want to play the level, but also and in-game, the more that you visit a course, the more familiar the Pokemon kind of become with you, and as is common with the Pokemon series, it's all about friendship and love and your care that you give for the Pokemon. And so as they start to realize that you mean them no harm, you're just there to observe them and love them for what they are, they'll start doing cuter and more fun things. And so there is a lot of like replayability in these levels. Whereas in the original, the same thing happened on every run.
Right. And replayability is important because you've referred to them as courses, and I guess I kind of introduced Pokemon Snap as like a rail shooter kind of.
Right.
The gameplay consists of, it's first person, and your character moves on a fixed track, a la a rail shooter, like, I don't know, Star Fox or something, or like an arcade first-person shooter.
I would think House of the Dead, or, you know, Area 51 at an arcade. You don't control where you're going.
Truly, truly one of those, but instead of a gun, you're pointing a camera. You move along a fixed path, and the level lasts like 5 or so minutes, typically. And you can move your character's viewpoint 360 degrees, essentially. Like, things are happening all around you on this fixed track. Pokemon are everywhere in this environment, doing different things. And part of that replay value is things are happening all around you, and you can miss some things on one run, so you want to go back and take a picture. And that's kind of part of the collection aspect of it, too, is you want to replay these courses, capture all the Pokemon, kind of fill out your Pokedex, essentially, by, like, catching photos of, quote-unquote, I'm physically doing air quotes right now, of all of the Pokemon. Catching them all, as it were.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with new Pokemon Snap, it sounds like there's a lot more variety there, and they play with, like, that replayability a lot more nicely, with, I guess, day and night cycles kind of already adding a little bit more flavor to each course, but also the fact that it changes the more often you visit it is kind of cool.
Right. Additionally, they do give you tools to also elicit, you know, strange reactions from Pokemon. This is also, if we're using the word traditional at this point.
Well, and you, Braden, alluded to the fact that there's a lot of friendship and love, and it's all very friendly.
Yeah.
But it's worth noting, in the original Pokemon Snap, you could throw apples at Pokemon to either, like, kind of bonk them on the head and kind of elicit reactions. You could kind of, like, daze them or stun them a little bit. You could throw apples, like, in front of them to have them eat it. Like, you could use apples as, like, bait to kind of lead them towards something else, to make something happen, to make them interact with something else. But you could also throw these things, stun balls or something, They were essentially like poison capsules,
They
sort
were
of.
purple and smoky, dude.
Yeah, they were like these little Pokeball-looking objects that you could throw at the Pokemon that, when they make contact, they explode into like a purple gas.
Yeah.
And they would stun Pokemon even more. Like they were to like agitate the Pokemon and like kind of make them angry.
Get them to roar or something.
Yeah,
or, like,
exactly.
Use an attack.
Right. It was kind of like they were kind of used to intentionally elicit a negative reaction. Like that's how you can make a Pokemon attack each other, or like use like a move like Fire Breath or something, or make them roar. Do something like kind of cool, which I mean is a little cruel in retrospect, but that was something when I was playing it a little bit ago when Braden was showing me new Pokemon Snap, is that there are no longer poison stun balls. You cannot poison the Pokemon any longer.
It's true.
For better, for worse.
Yeah, they kept the apples. They call them fluff fruit in this game, which
Sure.
Why
not?
Okay. They also kept the Pokeflute,
Okay.
which in the original game was used to wake sleeping Pokemon, which is just how it goes in Pokemon, the Pokeflute. And I haven't found tons of use for it yet. There are so many secrets that I am positive that I have not uncovered.
And you having beaten the game, like you said,
Yes.
You rolled the credits, right?
Oh yes, I rolled the credits, and there's still plenty of Pokemon that I have not seen their fanciest moves yet. You know what I mean? There's still plenty for me to capture, and there's still plenty of Pokemon that I'm positive that I haven't even seen in the first place. You know, a lot of it is using these apples or the Pokeflute in the right coordination to make this special event happen. However, in this game, they did replace the poison smoke balls with these things called Illumina orbs.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, it's the gimmick. It's the linchpin of the storyline, essentially. The word Illumina, if you can kind of just get on board with that word, it'll make this whole conversation easier.
Illumina. So for those of you playing at home, it's worth mentioning that Illumina is not like a Pokemon lingo term, like a universal thing. This is new to new Pokemon Snap.
Yes, correct.
So go on. What's the deal with Illumina?
Yeah, so as part of the story, there's an ancient tale of a meteor falling and these 5 giant shining Pokemon fending it off and saving the whole land. It turns out that there's this force of energy in the Lental region that feeds from inside the earth and emerges through these plants called Christabloom flowers, and these Illumina Pokemon become Illumina Pokemon by eating the Christabloom, essentially.
What is an Illumina Pokemon? Is that a good question?
It is a good question. It's not a shiny Pokemon, because that's a thing in Pokemon. Shiny Pokemon are the different colored Pokemon that you'll find. They're like 1 in 64,000 or something like that.
Right.
So they're not even different colored. They're generally larger than the average Pokemon of...
But not Mega Evolution.
They are not Mega Evolutions,
Gigantamax or whatever.
No, they are not Gigantamax.
Okay.
They are Illumina and large. So the first one is like a Meganium, which is Chikorita's final evolved form. And it's like the size of a small building, small shed, small house. And so I mean that's huge compared to like the normal size.
Right.
But I don't know how it became the Illumina Pokemon, or
it ate the flower? Question mark?
But I mean, I think it's been around for like thousands of years or something too.
Okay. So there are legendary Pokemon. This is me informing the audience. There are legendary Pokemon, period. Pokemon generally, like animals, there are a lot of Pikachus out there, but there are legendary Pokemon that are like there's only one of. There's only one Mewtwo, there's only one Lugia, there's only one Palkia, so on and so forth. This Illumina Meganium, to use its Latin scientific name classification, there's only one of those, right? It is the Meganium that ate the Illumina flower or something. Does it explain this? This game has plot.
The plot is glowy Pokemon. I mean,
terrific.
Yes,
sold.
That's all you really need.
Very new.
And all that to say is they've replaced those poison balls with glowing orbs so that you can make the Crystabloom plants shine and make the Pokemon glow as well. They don't become, I don't know, I don't get it.
What
They don't
happens when...
become Illumina Pokemon, but they are affected by the Illumina glow from these plants, making them do fun, quirky things.
Okay. It's how you can like draw them out or make them be more active or do something more interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
These plants have just an all-encompassing power in the Lintel region, apparently,
Sure.
that just get Pokemon and humans going alike. And if you can manage to get these plants shining near a Pokemon, they'll generally do something cool. Corsola will like shine and put rainbows out, and a Scorbunny will start doing like flame kicks. And
will it make any of them like evolve on the spot or anything?
Dude, that's one thing. I have not seen a single live evolution in this game, which I thought was pretty cool in the first one.
It was cool, but it was also it was not like a like it happened like once or twice.
Yeah.
Which was what made it cool. Was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I recall, you could like push like a Moltres egg into lava, or something. Maybe it was Magmar,
and it would hatch.
Yeah, it was pretty novel for that to happen in the original, and I mean, I guess it's somewhat surprising that it's not in this new one, that it could be used like pretty creatively.
Yeah.
So wildlife photography game concept in mind, and catching them all in mind, and also making the Pokemon do interesting things. I feel like this all kind of needs to come together to the main gameplay mechanic of kind of what is new to new Pokemon Snap is like the rating system of your photos, because it's not just about catching them all. It's not about like getting the photo of Charmander just in time, like you just to have a photo of Charmander is to get the best photo of Charmander.
Absolutely.
Right? To like get the most interesting and coolest or most natural photo, right?
Absolutely.
And there's like a system to that.
Yes. You can call it your Pokedex. It's actually called the Photodex in Pokemon Snap.
Sick.
Each Pokemon has 4 slots for pictures to be assigned in their Photodex, and each of those 4 slots are rated from 1 to 4 stars. So you take a picture of a Pikachu sitting in the sand, and it's probably going to be a 1 star. But if you take a cool picture of a Pikachu lit up by an Illumina flower while also using Thunderbolt, that's going to be a 4 star.
Okay.
And so that there's room in between for different things for the 3 and 2 star. And Pikachu may have multiple behaviors that will reward a 4 star photo, but yeah, like you said, you're generally trying to fill up all 4 slots of each Pokemon and get the highest ranked photo you can of it doing the most interesting, research-worthy behavior.
Right. How many Pokemon are we dealing with here in this game, dare I ask? How many are represented? Can I please catch them all?
Ooh, you're a far cry from getting to catch them all, for certain. I think it's safe to say there's probably about 30 Pokemon per course.
Okay.
There are 11 courses total, and to see all 30, I think it's safe to say you need to go between day and night, play both versions. And all that said, Pikachu shows up in several of those courses. So there's going to be some repeats as well. But I don't know, 30 times 11, 330. I'd say that's probably a safe average guess.
That's reasonable. And you think like the representation is pretty even and like pretty, like, I guess just like statistically even, but also like as far as like crowd pleasers are concerned, like everybody kind of like from across all the generations will kind of be pleased with like what Pokemon are represented throughout these environments.
Yeah, I think so. So I really, we didn't talk about it on the podcast, but I really disliked Pokemon Sword and Shield. And so I mean, I didn't even finish it, to be perfectly honest. That's just almost sacrilegious on a Nintendo podcast to officially announce, but I didn't finish it. So I don't know all the Pokemon, but there were a handful of Pokemon I did not recognize. And there were plenty of fan favorites from back in my day as well.
Right.
So, it's very cool. The one thing, it was funny, I was complaining to you about before we started playing, before we started recording, was just the lack of legendaries. I've beaten the game.
That was my next question, is like, with all that representation, I mean, again, the first Pokemon Snap, kind of, the finale was Mew, which was the legendary of legendaries at the time.
Right.
And still kind of is, but like what legendary could they choose to kind of be like the flagship Pokemon for this, or to like be like the kind of final encounter, finale, significant, I don't know, you know?
Right. We've had some back and forth about whether it's worth discussing the big legendary Pokemon in this game, and it's not that big a deal, but by the same token, if you want the surprise, I've been known to spoil things before, and I will not be the one to do it this time. But so there is one legendary that does appear at the end and is kind of the big finale Pokemon, kind of like Mew. But I was complaining about the lack of legendaries, and that being the only one.
Yeah, especially now that we have so many to draw from, and there could be so many cool composed moments of like, I don't know, like, spoiler that this isn't the legendary, but like, I don't know, Zekrom like coming out of like a dimensional portal or something, you know? I don't know.
Oh yeah,
something wild.
But then I did kind of get a lesson. We pulled up just one random level and we saw a legendary like almost immediately, which I had never seen before.
Right.
And so that makes me think there's some post game content, kind of starting to unfold as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, maybe like some bigger, wilder names will show up.
Fingers crossed. Because you saw my reaction when that legendary popped up on that random run.
It was very random.
I really feel the care they put into this game. I can tell they wanted it to feel big and full and exciting, and
That's kind of interesting because in a way the original Pokemon Snap, even beyond like other Pokemon spin-offs that are kind of just more like Pokemon but a puzzle game, or Pokemon but like a racing game, even like Pokemon Snap is like truly like a love letter to Pokemon as like a world, you know? Like it really brings it to life in a way that even like the core games don't always, because they're always about battling.
Right.
In a way that kind of like the show, like the TV show is kind of capable of.
Sure.
And it was the first video game to kind of like do so and like make the world feel breathing and alive. And I mean, it sounds like new Pokemon Snap does that even more so with more Pokemon and more ways to like make that world feel alive, to make them interact and feel lively and interesting, you know?
Absolutely. There's lots of replay value, lots of like, they're not challenges. Actually, they call them requests. And so like different characters are like, hey, can you catch this Pokemon doing this behavior? Or I heard this Pokemon does this sometimes. Can you find out? And there's a lot of them, and they're kind of hard to nail down. And so there's replay value there.
Do you think those are more like quests, or do you think those are kind of more like hints nudging you towards filling out all of the like the 4-star requirements?
It's nice because it's both.
Okay.
It is 100%, because most of them, when you fulfill a request, you get like a little dumb reward, like a profile icon or like a banner. But at least they're like treating it like a mission or a quest, by rewarding you. But at the same time, you're also filling up your photo decks with the fanciest shots out there.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. My one thing is it just doesn't feel like a $60 game.
I feel like this is always where we end up with games like this.
Yeah, and I was happy to spend $60 on it.
Sure.
Having played the original, wanting that hit of nostalgia, but I don't think Nintendo will find the profits that they are looking for at a $60 price tag.
You don't think Nintendo will find profit from a Pokemon game?
You're right. Yes, it's their best-selling franchise. Like, they're gonna make money. But the people that I generally talk to about video games, I'm like, hey, did you get Pokemon Snap? And they're like, no, they're not really my thing.
Sure. Yeah, and like, I mean, that's kind of how the original Pokemon Snap is like, we can like nostalgically fawn over it all what we want, but like when you want to show anyone, I mean, like whether somebody our age that like was into Pokemon, or somebody like a 12-year-old kid who's into Pokemon now, like here's this Pokemon photography game from back in the day. Like it's a hard sell kind of.
Yeah.
I don't think
$40 would it be as hard of a sell?
No. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Of course, that's any game ever. Sure. Drop the price. Yeah.
But to think about too, like if new Pokemon Snap were Pokemon Snap, if this were the first Pokemon Snap to come out, well, I don't know. I think maybe the novelty would even be even greater. I think like there would
Yeah.
be kind of like this meme value to it. You
Uh-huh.
know, if a Pokemon photography game dropped in the middle of like between Sword and Shield and like whatever this Arceus game that's coming out soon,
Uh-huh.
like I think maybe I'm wrong with where I was going with that, but that's kind of what we were talking about at the beginning. Like it's such a novel, weird left field concept for a video game period, let alone
Mhm.
a Pokemon spinoff, that it's just kind of it just exists in such a weird place in Pokemon canon and video game canon broadly.
Yeah. I do think it kind of comes back to like replayability for me to some degree.
Mm.
Like for me, it's very replayable, and I'm enjoying going back through the courses and finding new cool pictures to because I want to put them on Instagram
Yeah,
and
and you're kind of a completionist by heart too.
yes, but plenty of people will get so bored with this game after 30 minutes, and so that's like where my wariness comes in.
Hmm.
I think, but if you're a Pokemon fan, if you're at all like photographically inclined,
Yeah,
I think you would love it. It's really just an easygoing experience, and so if you're looking for less action and more unique, I
yeah.
guess.
I'd say, and if you're like a casual gamer, like if you
Mhm.
like Animal Crossing or
Mhm.
something, like something slower paced and more like just enjoyable and less reflexive and action packed, like
Yeah.
Monster Hunter that we just covered. Um, Very much a different kind of game, a different change of pace.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I would even tack on like if you like traditional adventure games,
Hmm.
like this kind of like creative puzzle solving sort of element, like
Mhm.
getting the Pokemon using the your environment, but also the tools you kind of have available to you to like get these Pokemon to where you want them to be,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like akin to old point and click adventure games
Kind of
almost.
chain of event games.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
just general like puzzle solving is like,
Mhm.
I think that about Pokemon Snap is something that appeals to me, my left brain.
Mhm.
In addition to just like the right brain cuteness of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess before we transition to something I noted and that I'm sure you already clocked when you were playing it, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
This is no Sword and Shield.
It's insane. The I don't know if it's just genuine technological improvement or just more fuel to the flame of the dumpster fire that was Sword and Shield.
I mean, I didn't even play Sword and Shield, but I could rant and rave about like why it didn't need to end up the way it did, like especially visually.
Uh-huh.
Like I
Uh-huh.
have my own philosophy on it, and I'll illustrate that philosophy real quick for those of you playing at home without prior context. Pokemon Sword and Shield, the most recent main line Pokemon
Mhm.
entries, Sword and Shield version, were kind of widely panned for being really ugly looking. This is the first time Pokemon has been like in HD on a home console, like
Mhm.
a main Pokemon game. And it really just like wasn't very visually impressive given that, and it was kind of panned by fans and critics alike. And I think that was avoidable because Sword and Shield also had a very limited roster of Pokemon.
Mhm.
Like we said, we have over 800 Pokemon at this point collectively, but Sword and Shield had a very like limited roster available of like a couple or few hundred. And so they could have used that resource to make those Pokemon really pop and look
Mhm.
amazing.
Absolutely.
And something about like where those that budget and those resources went awry. But here we are, like a year and a half
Mhm.
off of Sword and Shield,
Yeah.
and we have Pokemon Snap, which is again a couple hundred Pokemon,
Mhm.
but they look gorgeous and the
Yes.
environments are beautiful and they all do interesting things. And because they're acting in nature and doing their own thing,
Mhm.
they all are so much more expressive and emotive
It's
and
so true.
more visually pleasing and animated than Sword and Shield.
Mhm.
So it's just interesting to think about. I don't know. That comparison is just interesting. And again, a photography game facilitates that kind of
Right.
presentation more obviously, but I don't know.
But going
Where
back to that Arceus game, as you called it earlier,
yeah.
I mean, even the graphics there are already just so much significantly better than Sword and Shield.
Right.
I'm not trying to turn this into just a crap on Sword and
I
Shield
mean,
episode,
we can.
but
We got time.
yeah. But Nintendo, the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, collectively, the anyone involved has obviously like taken some notes from Sword and Shield
Definitely.
and made improvements.
Yeah, new Pokemon Snap was clearly not rushed. Yes. It was a labor of love.
22 freaking years.
I would hope so.
Right.
Which are we cool with Pokemon Snap? Is it in the books? New Pokemon Snap?
Yeah, get it. I like it.
22 years of development?
Ooh. Wow. Okay.
You said it, not
Swing.
me. I'll give you credit. I'll give you equal credit. I'll give you half a co-host's worth of credit. So for our Nintendo Gym for this episode, our oldie to juxtapose our newie is Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. And I'll get to all the introductory bits in a second as we need to. But Donkey Kong Country essentially, like, historically took 22 years to develop. And not even like in the Pokemon Snap way where like a Donkey Kong game came out 22 years ago and then there was Donkey Kong Country, but like literally the developers of Donkey Kong Country claimed that like hard work on the game, like tangible development was literally 22 years in the making, which is a funny coinkydink, but also holy crap.
Yeah.
What? How?
Which plays into a lot of just what we need to get into about Donkey Kong Country and kind of the new technology that it managed to incorporate. But are we putting the cart before the horse here?
Sure. What does that mean? Is that a phrase?
I think so.
Okay. Then
you're getting ahead of yourself, son.
Oh yes, then maybe to put the horse before the cart where it's supposed to go, or what have you. Donkey Kong Country was released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo.
I was born that year.
Congratulations, you did it.
I did it.
It was almost simultaneously released on the same day across the world globally, but it actually came out in the UK a few days before the US.
That's generally unusual.
But it makes sense because it was developed by Rareware, which is a British company.
Yes.
They are based in the UK, so that kind of makes sense. But yeah, it was released for the Super Nintendo. It's a side-scrolling platformer. It stars Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong.
Which, I mean, we kind of need to stop there. Like, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong weren't people yet, really. Well,
they still aren't people. They're apes.
Yes.
Worth noting, yes. You know. But, yeah, you're absolutely correct. Like, disclaimer, we're pretty unqualified to talk about Donkey Kong Country. The reason we're discussing it for this episode to just tear the curtain down and burn it in a bonfire. Braden just played it for the first time. I've played it before, but we grew up with the Game Boy Color version.
Yeah.
Which was released in 2000, 6 years later after the original, and is a little different from the Super Nintendo original article in some notable ways that like we don't necessarily need to get into because it is less important and also kind of sucks. But yeah, we are relative newbies to Donkey Kong Country, but Braden played it for the first time recently and is very excited about it. So I guess we can't promise to be like, there's so much to say about Donkey Kong Country. It's such a historically significant video game across video games for Nintendo, for Donkey Kong as a franchise. There's so much to say and so much to analyze, but I guess I will request a little forgiveness that we don't touch absolutely everything or touch these things with the heavy hand that they deserve. Is that fair? Yeah,
that was very well said, I think.
Okay.
I wanted to find a game on the Super Nintendo Switch collection that A, was like a solid Nintendo hit, B, that I kind of hadn't played before, and Donkey Kong Country really fit the bill. Like Connor said, we played the Game Boy Color version, so I'm semi-familiar, and I don't think I've said this before on the show, but the Super NES is probably my least familiar Nintendo console out there. Like I said, I was born in 94, which was kind of in the heat of the SNES era, and so, I don't know, we kind of missed it. Later on, we got an NES and played the fire out of that, but I just have not spent as much time with the Super Nintendo, so I wanted to, and Donkey Kong Country seemed like a good fit to expose myself to.
Yeah, I'm excited for your future because we certainly have a lot of Super Nintendo classics to cover.
Yes.
But Donkey Kong Country is might as well say it. It's considered one of the best video games of all time, like often. it does have 2 sequels, and like for those that are like gamers, Nintendo enthusiasts alike who are like into Donkey Kong or into Nintendo games, like opinions vary on which is the best of the 3, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the first one is generally considered like the most widely available, widely recognized classic,
Mm-hmm.
especially just because it was so revolutionary for its time, and you can't really recreate that with sequels, you know,
Right.
that kind of impact.
Let's talk about why it was so revolutionary. And I think the easy one to start with, the easy angle to start with, would be the fact that it really was not Donkey Kong's first game,
True.
but his first starring role in a game. That's not even fair either.
Yeah, I mean, Donkey Kong as a character, as we understand him in the 21st century, is wildly different from how he was introduced. But also, like, us being in the 21st century now with like 2020 vision, like we already kind of have 2 perspectives on Donkey Kong, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
so there's the original Donkey Kong arcade game in like 1980, early whatever.
Boom, 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 boom,
Yeah,
boom, 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 boom.
that's the one. The one where Jumpman faces off against Donkey Kong to save Princess Pauline. You know, all those classic characters.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, like, I mean, I feel like everybody's generally aware of that Donkey Kong now, still, in hindsight. But yes, there was obviously some very significant turning point, because the Donkey Kong we also know and love today is a quadrupedal ape gorilla with a red tie that has his initials on it. And it's kind of a goofball, but is also like this like rough and tumble badass, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that original 80s Donkey Kong is just kind of like a general King Kong villain sort of guy.
Right.
And so, yeah, you're right. Something changed. And that something is Donkey Kong Country. And gosh, again, we're no experts on Donkey Kong, but like generally Nintendo is kind of looking to rebrand Donkey Kong to make him sort of a more action hero character to use for platformers. For more side-scrolling platformers, and there was a lot of work with Rareware, the developer of Donkey Kong Country, to kind of redesign the character to be more palatable, a little more friendly, but also cooler. And it's interesting if you look it up, to look at like the concept art and the design documents, like the evolution of Donkey Kong from generic cartoon gorilla to the kind of ice cream scoop headed red tie wearing hero that we know today. The concept art that like Shigeru Miyamoto, the original designer, traded with Tim Stamper and such, the team at Rareware. It's a very interesting evolution, and it was obviously very calculated and crafted to make this cool, recognizable character that we know today turn that villain into a hero.
Absolutely.
And then there's Diddy Kong, who like also kind of came out of nowhere, but whatever.
Plenty of Kongs come out of nowhere.
We'll
discuss that when
Kongs came out of nowhere, generally, for this one. You know, yeah.
Whatever Kong means.
King.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, yeah, whatever. But
and we'll discuss more random Kongs one day with DK64 and
ooh, hopefully.
So that does lead in. So yes, they gave Donkey Kong a total redesign and gave him a world to live in. But to do that, they kind of harnessed some new technology to give Donkey Kong Country graphics that had never been seen before on consoles.
It was mostly the fact that it was on a console, let alone a cartridge-based console.
Right.
Because at this point, the PlayStation... this is a Nintendo podcast. I don't feel bad not knowing this. The PlayStation was either already out or was right around the corner. So like 3D graphics there were kind of like a little bit there, maybe. Or were close. Or if the PlayStation 1 was out, then they were using pre-rendered 3D.
Right.
But like Braden alluded to, the big visual draw for Donkey Kong Country back in the day in 1994 was that it used pre-rendered 3D graphics. Ooh, big words. 3D is the operative word, and in the 90s, 3D video games, I mean, that's the selling point. If your game is 3D, then it's new and it's exciting. That's a whole new dimension. But pre-rendered 3D graphics are a little different, because this is the Super Nintendo we're talking about. It doesn't have excellent 3D rendering capability, if any. And the Super Nintendo being a cartridge-based console, especially cartridge-based hardware, was not known for its graphical fidelity, let alone its like storage fidelity. as opposed to the disc-based hardware of the PlayStation, which could kind of have higher quality files, and so on. But so what pre-rendered 3D graphics means is that during development for Donkey Kong Country, the artists, the character modelers, would create these 3D models of Donkey Kong, of Diddy Kong, and all the characters on the computer, as one does. Like, this is also around the time of like Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
Toy Story was the first digitally animated, like 3D animated film. So 3D animation truly was all the rage. For Donkey Kong Country, they would render these 3D models as high quality as they could on the PC, but then they would rig them in these poses and sort of take photos of them. They would set the lighting appropriately and such and get these high quality scans of these models in the different poses in a stop motion sort of way. They would pose these models in different poses and kind of take screenshots of them, high quality screenshots, and then use those 2D renders of these 3D models to create these sprites, which is the technical term for what 2D video game graphics are, to make these sprites, to digitize these sprites onto the Super Nintendo. So essentially what you're seeing when you see Donkey Kong Country is kind of like these weird pixely sort of, I mean, they're flat images. Like it's akin to like Mario World or something. It's flat Mario on a flat surface.
Pixels,
like, right?
Flat pixels.
These are not 3D models running around a 3D environment. These are 3D objects flattened to 2D, pre-rendered, not being rendered in real time because the Super Nintendo, to create the illusion of pseudo 3D. Did I do good?
You did. Yes, I think you managed to get around like the mechanical side of it.
I promise I know what I'm talking about, but it's just like when I promise. But it's just when you don't have a visual aid, it's a little hard to.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, it's worth looking up some screenshots. Hey, follow Nintendo's.
Yep.
We got some screenshots, but it's a bizarre graphical style. Because while it's wildly impressive and you can actually see the 3D, it's also pretty darn strange to look at. It kind of gives that, it's not uncanny valley. That's not like the right word for it, but it's just kind of uncomfortable. That stop motion effect is there that kind of makes it a little strange.
I would say uncanny. Here's how I should have introduced it. As opposed to hand-drawn animation. Like, video game sprites at this point, and oftentimes still, are a matter of, like, each sprite, as it were, each frame of animation is hand-drawn. Each Mario has a jumping sprite, where, like, a jumping pose, and that is hand-drawn, and he has, like, 3 frames of walking animation, those are each hand-drawn. In a way, like, Donkey Kong's running animation in Donkey Kong Country is a animation loop, but it's, instead of it being hand drawn, it's just kind of like
they pixelated pictures.
Yeah, they digitize these 3D models, these poses of these 3D models running, and digitize them into these sprites.
Yeah.
Which is also, again, like, yes, well, like you say, they appear kind of pixely when they're digitized. They're compressed a lot.
Yeah.
Into these flat 2D images. When all of the graphics are made like that, when everything is kind of this pre-rendered 3D with like the lighting isn't always consistent, because Donkey Kong will have the same kind of like angle of lighting on him in every single level because it's the same sprite set.
Right.
But all these levels take place in outdoor jungles, at night, during the day, in these dank caves, in factories. Like, this like inconsistency of visual style does make it look a little uncanny, especially when it's attempting for the time to look kind of like as not realistic, but like as
advanced as possible.
Right, exactly. It's going for fidelity. But obviously it hasn't aged quite as gracefully as maybe it would have hoped.
Yeah. I think bottom line is the graphics are not my favorite.
Sure.
But I still am thoroughly impressed by them. Like,
absolutely.
They are, because you don't see graphics like that in other games.
Yet.
Right. Sorry.
I will say, afterwards, it did become relatively common for games to adopt that style. after Donkey Kong Country kind of like made it a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was the benchmark. It sort of popularized it, you know?
Right. Did Clay Fighter use that? Any idea?
Yes, exactly. And like Clay Fighter, Killer Instinct was
Mm-hmm.
another Rareware developed game that
Right.
used that. I'm thinking of, I don't know why this was the first thing that came to mind, but there's a game called Skull Monkeys on the PlayStation 1 that is a claymation animated game.
Uh-huh.
But like same kind of thing. That's how they use
Is
the
that
sprites.
different from Escape from Monkey Island?
Very, very different.
Okay.
But yeah, like using this kind of pseudo 3D style to emulate 3D graphics and to, in hindsight, we can also respect it as like an artistic choice.
Sure.
Yes, they were striving for graphical fidelity and like being impressive, but I think the concession that we are making, you and I, are that like even in spite of that, it still has value. It still looks good.
Yeah.
It still looks unique and recognizable, even if like it doesn't look quite as impressive as it might have in back in the day.
Sure. And recognizable is all that I can say when I see that Donkey Kong Country like logo.
Yeah.
Like just that's so iconic.
Yeah, that title screen.
But I guess let's get into the gameplay just a little bit. I've said before, I'm not the biggest just side scroller fan. I am not always good at them. I think that's part of the problem why I'm not always the biggest side scroller fan.
Sure.
And man, I would not have fared well on this game if I was not playing on the Nintendo Switch using the Super Nintendo Collection. I rewound that game like a Blockbuster VHS. Like,
yeah, I can confirm that for you. Just knowing you and how you like to play games.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah,
this is a tough game.
It really is. I did beat it, and so I have a completed file. But I rewound a lot. I used save states whenever I wasn't at a convenient save point, which this game does have save points throughout the game, you know. But I took full advantage of essentially running an emulator on my Switch, you know what I mean? But that it helped me enjoy the game and fully experience the game as well. I would not have otherwise, I can almost confidently say. Unless maybe I was growing up in the 90s and that's how I played my games back then.
Right. And it is tough. We were playing a little bit before we started recording, and we were discussing the ins and outs of the term forgiving, whether this game is kind of unforgiving, because it uses like a sort of archaic live system that are a little insignificant. Like losing all your lives sets you back like a little bit. The levels themselves are very trial and error based, I will say. Is just kind of like the MO of the level design is that you could theoretically beat most levels in one go if you are just extremely reflexive and just an ace at video games, but odds are that like an obstacle will take you off guard, and you will have to start over and replay and kind of like build familiarity with the level to conquer it. It's one of those games. And as such, there are checkpoints throughout each level that are very useful. And if you lose all of your lives, you have to start that level over again. Is that correct?
Yes. Which, kind of a standard Mario formula. But like you said, it does become a little meaningless at some point.
Superfluous.
Yes. Meaningless is a harsh word.
Sure. But like, where do you draw that line when you have access to like a rewind feature? Like,
just make me invincible.
Well, Donkey Kong Country Returns did have that super guide feature. Do you remember that?
No.
That was what that is. It would play the level for you if it was too challenging.
Wow. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a challenging platformer, and like you can, in this day and age, sort of set that level of challenge yourself. And it's also, I mean, it again, it's one of those that like with the trial and error style of the level design, like it kind of facilitates that even, you know.
Well, a great example and one of the game's most popular levels is the series of Minecart Levels.
Right.
That, there's a handful throughout the game, and essentially you're just riding in a minecart, which is going downhill, and of course you have to jump over gaps and miss all the enemies or kill the enemies, and, there's secret tracks you can fall onto, all that fun stuff, but they throw quick traps at you. Like, you need to be paying attention, and maybe if you're weird, you can make it through in one go, but you're probably going to die a bunch and have to memorize when to jump.
Right. And there's even like some like leaps of faith involved, right?
Yeah.
Like times where you have to jump that you're not sure even
where the next track is.
Yeah, like, which that's a personal opinion of mine, is that is not great level design.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say that Donkey Kong Country might have some poorly designed levels. Sorry. But I don't know. I don't want to put the car before the buggy, or what have you. But I think Donkey Kong Country is pretty all right. Mm-hmm. I think it deserves its classic status, but I think it's worth like a one play through, and then I don't know. I don't think it's that fun. Is all I'm getting at. Yeah, but that's a personal opinion, and that is fine.
Well, and I'd have to say that you've played probably more traditional Donkey Kong games than I have. Just thinking of Donkey Kong Country, Country Returns, Jungle Beat, Tropic Freeze, like you've kind of run the gamut. And how much do the later games build on this original formula? Like, or do you think they've become kind of a different series over time? Is that a fair question? Does that make sense?
It's a fair question, and it makes sense, but it doesn't have a simple answer.
Yeah.
Because Donkey Kong is one of those series.
It's kind of like, how has Mario evolved? How have his games?
Well, I would say Mario has evolved in a more clear way than Donkey Kong has. Because, like, Donkey Kong, like, if I ask you, what does a Donkey Kong game play like?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Okay. Yeah, you got me there.
Like, because...
That was easy.
Right. And yeah, like... We had Donkey Kong from the 80s, and that was that. That's an arcade game. And then it got reinvented for Country. And then after Donkey Kong Country, for a long time, that was kind of it. We had DK64, which is a 3D platformer, which was also never done. So many Donkey Kong spin-offs. We got Barrel Blast, Donkey Konga, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Jungle Beat also being a platformer, but being like its own kind of platformer.
Yeah.
I love Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Do you remember Donkey Kong King of Swing for the Game Boy Advance?
I do.
That weird climbing game.
What? Yeah. Those graphics were weird. That was a weird art
the visual
style
was strange. Yeah. A little bit. But then 2010 maybe, we got Donkey Kong Country Returns, which was like the proper like, here's Donkey Kong Country again. Yeah. Or not again, but like here's more. And it was a proper like another proper Donkey Kong 2D platformer, very Donkey Kong Country-esque, with new mechanics and more interesting levels and more accessible to a natural evolution, in my opinion, for the series. Feels pretty different in a lot of ways, but I think an overall positive step. And then, we got Tropical Freeze, which was the sequel, but then here we are kind of, Tropical Freeze was the last one, like what, 6 or 7 years ago? So who knows what's next? So to answer your original question, yes, absolutely. Because Donkey Kong Country, even if like the formula for a Donkey Kong game has like gone all over the place, like Donkey Kong Country is the seed.
The skeleton, the bones.
Yeah, because it's not the same Donkey Kong without Donkey Kong Country. It created the new canon for Donkey Kong.
Sure. And I do kind of want to take this moment to say that like I think I want to expand my Donkey Kong knowledge. I did kind of intentionally pick Donkey Kong Country as at least the first one for this show and the first Donkey Kong game that I've played in a long time, because Tropical Freeze is supposed to be phenomenal.
Absolutely.
We have Jungle Beat for the GameCube, and that's just an insane game.
Absolutely. And you did it right. This is where you should start. It's like, it's like Zelda. If you're playing a Zelda game for the first time, where do you start? Well, anywhere, but it's kind of like, Ocarina of Time. If you is kind of the understood seed there.
Absolutely.
Donkey Kong Country is the essential. It's the necessity. It is the founding point. Yeah, I mean,
it's free, kind of. If you are if you have the Nintendo Switch Online service that is like $20 for a year, you have access to not only the NES collection, but the Super Nintendo collection. All 3 Donkey Kong Country games for the Super Nintendo are on there.
Well, are we done talking about it already? 22 years of development. There's just so much to cover and to appreciate. The music is as iconic to Donkey Kong Country as any other facet of it. The visuals, the gameplay, the iconography of Donkey Kong, the music. David Wise, mwah, he is the composer, and fidelity wise too, like it was almost equivalent to like the leaps and bounds they made with the graphics, like the musical fidelity, the quality of the samples. Like he wanted like the instruments he chose and the genre he chose for Donkey Kong to be like kind of like 1940s like swing kind of style, you know, for the jungle. Like that's a choice. That's an artistic choice. Like it could have sounded like anything. It could have been like Mario music, you know. But that was on purpose. And then like yes, the Jungle Japes theme song is like the most iconic Donkey Kong tune, but the fans know that what really counts is the ambient underwater music. That's that's the real moneymaker.
Really?
Do you remember?
I don't. I guess.
Wow.
I don't know if I played it that level with the volume down or...
How could you?
I don't know.
If I had a nickel for however many 30-minute long, 3-hour long, like 10-hour study music, you know, on YouTube that are just the Donkey Kong Country underwater ambient music, like I would be a rich man. It's known for having atmospheric, engaging, interesting music.
Yes.
All that to say.
All catered for each level. Like
yes, wholly.
I would have to say, oh, this David Wise guy. But Connor like knows who David Wise is. Right. And so like
and he went on to compose for like Donkey Kong Country Returns and such too. Like he's the real deal. He's the guy.
Yeah.
And he
was a Rare facet though, right?
Right, exactly.
He was part of not Nintendo, he was part of Rare.
Exactly. And that was something I read too in my research, is that like he expected the music composition duties to be tossed over to Koji Kondo.
Sure.
The Mario and Zelda composer, because like duh, it's a Donkey Kong game. It's like it's Shigeru Miyamoto's baby, you know? But they were like, "No, yeah, your test tracks are great. Let's keep going." And he was like, "Well, all right." And that's something worth noting too, is like we've talked about Rareware and how they developed this game. Shigeru Miyamoto, the original creator of Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda, didn't direct or produce this game.
Huh.
Did you know that?
I didn't.
He did not. He had some creative direction. I mentioned that he obviously he had to give the okay to Donkey Kong's redesign as a character. Sure. But yeah, as far as like development, like directing, producing roles, like he was not the man for this one.
Wow.
They gave total control over to Rare, which is a big move. But yeah, so like it's just interesting. That's just another interesting facet of the development and also that explains this inconsistency with Donkey Kong games generally, is like Rare developed these 3 games and then Rare disappeared from Nintendo, which is kind of why Donkey Kong went through this weird identity crisis game wise. Yeah, I don't know. Donkey Kong Country is just like such a big thing to tackle.
So we've talked about Diddy Kong Racing on the show before. Like,
oh, that's true.
We have an episode. It's been a gem. And I don't know, just while we're on the topic of Rare and Diddy's premiere, like, where did this character come from and why? And dang, Rare sure ran with him, because the sequel doesn't have Donkey Kong. He's in it, but he's not the character.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Diddy Kong is a creation of Rare, of Rareware. Like he was created for this game, and I don't know necessarily about like making Diddy Donkey Kong's like nephew, or like making Diddy Kong like cool or something. But I read that like development wise, they did want to give Donkey Kong like a partner, just to like make the player feel a little less alone, or like just give it like a little more variety to the gameplay.
Sure.
But yeah, this is his first appearance for sure.
And he's a huge character now too. He's made it into Smash.
Yeah.
King K. Rool has made it into Super Smash Bros. He's the big bad guy from that premiered in Country. Lots of standards.
Yeah.
Being born here. And
I think that's the word that I like have been meaning to use this whole time, but maybe never found, was like Donkey Kong Country is like the standard. Like it set the standard for a lot of things, like for graphical fidelity in Super Nintendo games and platformers, quality of platformers, this kind of trial and error style of platformer that became so influential.
Yeah.
What like video game soundtracks could be, and like how ambient and suggestive without like being like bouncy video game music they could be. And just like how important atmosphere is even in video gamey platformers. I don't know. This is a loaded gun. There's a lot here.
And sorry we weren't necessarily the guys to bring the hard-hitting news about Donkey Kong Country.
Well, but we had to get there someday, you know?
And hey, if it makes you, the listener, feel any better, this was a great piece of catharsis for me. I learned a lot, and you know, definitely helped me process my gameplay as well.
Well, so yeah, what's your take? What's your review? Did you like it? Are you going to play the other two?
So I haven't told you this. I did start Donkey Kong Country 2.
Okay.
And it's interesting with Diddy and Dixie Kong. Like, it's different powers, you do have different abilities to play with, and I don't know. It's interesting that they got rid of Donkey Kong for it.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'll probably go on and play them. I don't know if I'll finish either of them. I kind of just want to, you know, get a taste and see how they expanded the formula. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a good game. And just a lot of older games can tend to be rough to play. Mm-hmm. Lots of older sprite-based games, you know, like one pixel rubs another pixel and you die. And I found this game to just like not be quite that punishing. I don't know. It was the cliche Nintendo polish is there as definitely. Compared to like so many other action side scrollers that are on like even the Super Nintendo collection. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like it's just such a smooth experience compared to so many of the other games.
Like licensed platformers and stuff, like all the movie tie-ins and stuff.
Exactly.
Like Super Nintendo in particular was just like a dime a dozen side-scrolling platformers. If you were a movie or a TV show, like it was your video game was a side-scrolling platformer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you're right. The Nintendo polish is there and evident, and it's Donkey Kong Country is a good game, and I feel like I did kind of like poop on it a little bit in this episode, but that's because it's again like a platinum classic, you know, like it's kind of untouchable, and so I feel like it's okay for it. I don't know,
to poke it a little bit.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's not nobody's not going to play it because I don't like it and I'm announcing it to the public. And that's not what I don't want to dissuade anybody from playing it. It's just it's not going anywhere. It deserves its rightful place, but it's just it's not my favorite, and that's okay.
I think that's a decent place to leave it because it's certainly a Nintendo gem, and I'm also glad I played it, and I'm also glad I get to move on to the next Donkey Kong game.
It's like one of our like Little League trophies from when we were kids. It's like it's a trophy, it's an achievement. It's
a game.
Yeah, we can look at it, but now it's gonna go in the attic. And we don't really have to look at it anymore unless we really want to for whatever reason. But it deserves it deserves its place.
That's good. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
On that note, guys, I think it's time for us to get out of here. We've been here for a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's hot in this closet.
Yep.
Let's get out of here.
Please.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you are not subscribed to Facebook or Instagram, make sure that you do it. Please subscribe to us. Please. Make sure you subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on right now. There's a link to our Discord in the podcast description. Click on that. Come say hi to us. Let us know what you're playing, and let's chat.
If you're listening to this podcast right now, you could probably hear the theme music fading in at this point. I composed that for you, and you can check out my other musical output that is a little more normal and less video gamey and more like stuff you should listen to on Spotify or at my Bandcamp page, weave.bandcamp.com. My stage name is Weave, W-E-A-V. Check it out if you so desire.
Hit him up.
Hit me up.
All right, guys. My name is Braden.
And I'm Connor.
And this has been Nintendo Gems. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening.
Love you.